Hello, everybody. Welcome to What You Need to Know. I am Sybil Wilkes, and I am joined today by two illustrious gentlemen, and it is great to have you. We are today featuring the fine gentlemen of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated with their international president is Micheal Cristal. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon. How are you? Excited to be here.
I'm very glad to have you here as well, and I look forward to our conversation about your wonderful organization. And as we have been very grateful each day to be joined by the one and only Tom Joyner. Hello, Thomas Joyner.
Hey, is that what we're doing tonight? We're going out like that? Okay, I just talk like that too now, you know.
I see we're gonna have some fun here, and yes, Tom, I know you threw up. Okay, all right, that's so you see how we're playing this game today,
I
President.
do. You see, I catch on quick.
Okay, yes, you are. Yes, you are. We had hoped to have a member of your organization on, and I'm not saying that this is any indication of your group of gentlemen, but the former member of our group, who is a member of Phi Beta Sigma, he punked out. And so we are here with you today, and we thought we might have some fun with him, but he's not up to it, not worthy, apparently. And so let us go forward. What we do, President Cristal, is talk every day about what you need to know and things that are happening in our community. As I tell everybody every day, I would not be here without Tom Joyner, and having learned from him these many years about how we serve the African American community. And as he learned from his mentor, Mr. John H. Johnson, he learned about super serving the African American community, or the Black community, or maybe even further back than that with the colored community. But what we do is give them stories, give them the news, things that really affect us on a day-to-day basis. A lot of our conversation these days, as I'm sure with you, President Cristal, is the coronavirus. We always touch on that every day. We have a wonderful staff of people, and giving the information and trying to share with people what's going on. If you would like to be a part of our What You Need to Know newsletter family and join our group, you can go to sybilwilkes.com. That's SYBILWILKES, and give us your name and your email address, and we will put that in your email box every morning, Monday through Friday, and talking about what's going on. And with that, also, as you are watching it here on YouTube Live, you see the button below, and you can subscribe that way as well. Click on that. So, President Cristal, we're going to talk about how you came to find the wonderful organization and joined and became a man of Phi Beta Sigma. But before we do that, let's talk about what's going on in the news. We know that today was the first of 3 services to be held in honor of George Floyd. And yesterday, as I said in the newsletter, listening to the plaintive cries of Tom Joyner and others, we heard from our president, Barack Obama, and he spoke before the cameras for the first time about the situation with George Floyd, as well as with the police brutality situation. And a part of his discussion, he participated in a town hall of his organization, My Brother's Keeper Alliance, and it was live streamed. And his discussion was called Reimagining Policing in the Wake of Continued Police Violence. And he stressed about uplifting our young men and young women who have so many gifts and so much promise, and they should not be denied this promise when they're just simply going out to the store, or they're taking a run, or, God forbid, they're just in their homes and something happens to them, or even in a lighter moment, what turned out to be a lighter moment, watching birds in Central Park. And He also thanked the protesters, those who were out there, not and making the distinction between the protesters and the rioters, as we have tried to do. So I was wondering, first of all, if you saw the speech, President Cristal, and Tom, if you got a chance to see it as well. President Cristal, did you see it?
I did, I did. And first, before we get too far, obviously I gotta uplift my fraternity brother, J. Anthony Brown. I'm sure his schedule just did not allow him to participate tonight. I'm sure he was
That's very nice of you,
out
sir.
or not intimidated about coming. So I want to lift him up first before we go further. And then certainly, I'm sure we'll probably talk about it, but certainly want to just shout out a solid prayer for the Floyd family and everything that that family has gone through and this country has gone through, and certainly want to lift them up. And didn't get an opportunity to see the service today, but I certainly look forward to seeing that as we exit this evening.
Yes.
But you know, you think about President Obama. I thought I heard Tom.
Tom, you said something, Tom?
Yeah, I was asking, isn't Reverend now Sharpton a Sigma?
He absolutely is. Absolutely is. He absolutely is. That's why I know we were inspired by that eulogy today. But you know, you think about President Obama and you think about on yesterday, what he's done so many times is he's provided that level of inspiration in the midst of a need for calmness. And yesterday we had an opportunity to hear him do what he does so well, and that is give clarity around some pretty difficult situations. You know, with his My Brother's Keepers Alliance, Phi Beta Sigma is actually one of his partners with that initiative. And when you think about what happened with Mr. Floyd, what happened within our community, when you think about police brutality, our fraternity has a partnership with Noble, National Organization of Black Law Executives. And the big thing we do, Sybil, and I think I have props kind of like you were talking. You know, you see this magazine right here. It's our Crescent magazine.
Yes.
And it showcases our Sigma Beta Club. And our Sigma Beta Club is our youth initiative. We mentor over 4,000 young men all across this country. We take them from the time they're 12 years old. We inspire them to really be strong academically, strong culturally, strong spiritually, with the intent of growing up, graduating from high school, with the intent of us mentoring them and moving on to college, ultimately, hopefully joining the fraternity, but join whatever they want. Our hope is they join Phi Beta Sigma, with the intent of us mentoring them then, and then with the intent of when they graduate, they're connecting with professional African-American men of character, men of value. And then so we've been staying with them throughout their whole life. And so when you think about the opportunity of engaging with the police, who's not always necessarily been friends to the community. We know there's a lot of great policemen out there, but unfortunately, there are some not so great ones. And so we have panels where our brothers who serve as law enforcement come in and talk with the young men, give them guidance on how to handle themselves. Be a young man, be a proud young man, but be respectful. Because like most mothers, most grandmothers, and most aunts, we want our kids to come home.
That's right.
That's what we want more than anything. We want them to come home. I'm a father of 2 young men. And every day I want to make sure that Brandon and Jalen are very well prepared when they have whatever engagement with law enforcement. And so what President Obama did on yesterday was reinforce that expectation. And that's what we hope we do every day, because we think it's important. Mentoring, providing role modeling, real role modeling.
Yes.
Don't take anything away from celebrities. Don't take anything away from athletes. But what I want our young people to see is a role model within their community who can touch them on a consistent basis.
Right.
And we believe our Sigma Beta Club provides that. And so if we can do that on a regular, and we can create an opportunity for the young people to know what their expectations are, know that they're kings, know that they have greatness, know that their intellect is something they should be extremely proud of, and know that the promise of tomorrow is not just a promise, it's something that can be real for them. And they can see it through examples of people who look just like themselves. And again, President Obama created that expectation on yesterday.
That is so awesome, and congratulations on all that great work. That's real. I'm inspired, and just listening to that short conversation. Tom, did you have a chance to see President Obama yesterday?
Yeah, and I felt the same way. He brought it home just as I expected him to. You know, he's a uniter. He's not a divider.
Right.
And Reverend Al said he's a blower upper.
Right, he did say that today. You'll hear that in his eulogy today. He really took us high and brought us back and gave us so much hope, but also with a great picture of our marching orders as well. Yeah.
Blower upper.
Yeah, blower upper. Yeah.
Well,
So in terms of the president, he also had a veiled reference to the current occupant of the White House, as he made note of yet another thing that he left there in his administration.
yeah.
That was his task force, right, on policing in the community. And so, and reminding people that he put together a group of people to come together with solutions regarding policing in our communities and the trouble sometimes of brutality and what have you, and reminded people also about not, and it's not about protesting or voting, it is protesting and voting, right? That we should be looking at both of them, not an either or situation, and making us realize that in just a few short months, we're going to have to be doing that. As we are protesting now, we still must go and vote. And I know that's a part of your initiative too, President Cristal.
Yeah. You know, again, I thought he did a great job of just reminding us as citizens of this country of how this country was founded, and connected through the Revolutionary War, and how we've always challenged, we've always protested. And I think what, I'm not getting political here, I'm just making a connection. You know, I thought what Joe Biden did was spot on when he talked about, you know, it's nothing wrong with protesting.
Right.
There is a difference. And I thought President Obama did a great job of stratifying protesting and making sure that it's civil and not being antagonistic and not being disrespectful, not transitioning into rioting. We want to separate ourselves from that. But challenging the organization, challenging the status quo, finding our space where we can really move the organization, and I'm talking about the country, to a better place. That's what these protesters have been doing.
Yeah.
And I think when you back up and look at it, by and large, it's been very civil. And I agree with the other assessment. You know, when we think about the unfortunate death of Mr. Floyd, with respect, we've seen that movie before.
Yes.
We've seen that movie before. We can go back to Emmett Till and extreme late history. We can come up to the early 90s with Rodney King, and then we can transition to Mr. Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Eric Garner. But this particular death, something was different about this one. I tend to believe Michael's assessment of it was not that we didn't see Eric Garner scream and yell as he was being tackled and taken to the streets, saying that I can't breathe.
Right.
But I believe we witnessed Mr. Floyd's death. And we witnessed it for an extended amount of time. And we saw life being taken away from him.
Yes.
And as we witnessed that, that became a very emotional experience, not just for Michael, the African-American man, not for Marty, my beautiful wife, but it became a visual frustration for the whole country. Right. And somehow, some way, everybody kind of took notice.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the protesters, in the past, it was just us.
Yeah.
It's not just us this time. It's a true reflection of Americana. And it's a reflection of Americana from the youth to the younger adults, to the people my age and people older, and all are saying the exact same thing. What is that? And that is racism we can't have.
That's right.
Respect police as an organization, but police brutality we can't have.
That's right.
And so what does the promise of tomorrow look like? It's a whole lot of people out there challenging it. And that was what, almost a week and some change ago?
Yes.
And it looks like the protests are gaining steam instead of slowing down.
Right. This is day 10 of the protests, right?
Yeah.
It happened all over the world.
All over the world.
Yep.
Yeah, all over the world.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Tom, yesterday, it was announced today regarding some of the things that have taken place, but yesterday, all of the officers in the George Floyd case were charged. The charges were upgraded for Derek Chauvin, and for the 3 others, they were charged with aiding and abetting in second-degree murder, as well as second-degree manslaughter for these 3. And I believe bail had been set for them for, I believe it was $750,000 each. And so now the question is, what do you think will happen from this? I think the putting Keith Ellison in place as the lead prosecutor, the Attorney General of Minnesota, was a big moment in this case because it was obvious that people in that county, however difficult the charges may have been to prove in the past, they were inept, I believe. That's just my opinion, inept in bringing a lot of these cases to the forefront. And that includes Amy Klobuchar, who's the current senator from Minnesota, when she was there. But this is a big moment with Keith Ellison and leading the prosecution and how these men, the charges were brought against them yesterday.
You know, you think about your comment about President Obama. You know, one of the things he said, and he was so famously known for it when he was running for re-election, when everybody was so inspired and people would be heckling or offering different thoughts about his opponent, he would say, "Don't boo, vote."
Exactly.
So let's talk about voting.
Yes.
And let's talk about the relevancy of voting. And so when you think about the excitement for seeing the lack of trust within that county in Minnesota on that county prosecutor, the governor, a Democratic governor, was in a position to appoint a Democratic attorney general,
right,
who looks like the community that's so distressed.
That's it.
Who has been elected just in 2018, not too long ago, who is very well equipped, intellectually strong. When you think about this kind of a case, this is where his passion is. If you look at Keith Ellison's background, this is the type of criminal cases that he's taken on. And then he brings so much poise. He brings so much intellect. He brought so much calmness, but so targeted and so precise in his presentation, and still offering collaboration.
Yes.
But how did he get there? He got there because we protested, we were frustrated, and we went to the polls.
Yep.
If you want long-term change, if you want sustainable change, it's got to be at the ballot box.
That's right.
And so as we think about all that we're doing on day 10, day 11 with our protests, that same level of energy, that same level of frustration, that same level of passion, we got to bring that in November.
Yes.
And we saw evidence of that just this past Tuesday.
Yes.
Ferguson.
Yeah, Ferguson,
Missouri was
right.
lit up and blazing fire many years ago.
Yep.
And what just happened? We elected the first African-American mayor. Again, if we want change, we got to make it at the ballot box. And we got true great examples of how you do that and how you drive it and you deliver it. And I think, to your point, Keith came out, he reversed the charges from third degree murder to second degree. He saw that there was a tremendous amount of evidence to put charges on the other 3. And he believed, based upon what he knows, his desire is not just to charge, but to get a conviction.
That's
right. And he believed, based upon the evidence, while hard, and he was so pointed on saying, minimize expectation, community. It's hard. In the history of Minnesota, they've only convicted 1 police officer.
Right.
He said, this is tough to do, but we believe we're prepared. But he didn't get there until we voted, and we always have to trust the process.
And Tom, you understand that over the years with the radio show and how you really pushed for us to be involved in people registering to vote as well as getting out the vote. And one of the things that we really talked about was not just when having people go to the polls when there is a presidential election, but talking about the down ballot elections as well and how important that is. And we're seeing that, especially in this case and other cases. But as President Cristal said, just with Ferguson, Missouri, and electing, Mayor Ella now as the first Black and first female mayor of an all-Black town. Yeah. So Tom, you understand that, and you have preached that and talked that talk and walked the walk from Tuskegee on about all of this.
The power of protest. I believe in the power of protest, and if I wasn't in this condition that I'm in right now, I'd be right out there with my signs saying, Black Lives Matter, the whole thing. Especially with Reverend Al. I mean, we walked arm in arm in so many different protests. Protests got me where I am.
That's right. Yeah. And the only thing missing, Tom, would be you wouldn't have the bologna sandwiches that were so good since your diet has changed completely.
That's true. That's true.
And Tom, just give us a little bit of that, because that's some of the story, some of the history that, and you used to tell us about the fact that the children of Tuskegee were sent out as a part of the protest. And tell people why that was.
It's much the same now. If you look at the people who are in the streets, they're young people, Hey, Dr. King died. He was only 36.
Right.
Young people. So our parents supported the protest, but our parents were fearful of losing their job.
Right. Yep.
So they send us, the children, and so I was there for the Selma to Montgomery March. Especially at the end at St. Jude High School, and then marching up Dex Avenue, So I do know the power of protest.
Tom, and I don't want to take us off the subject, but Tom, while we are here, I was reminded about the conversation that you and your brother had one night when we were at dinner with you, and talking about you guys taking over the president's office at Tuskegee with the Rockefellers.
Yeah.
With the board of directors. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Okay, so back in the day, remember Kent State?
In Ohio, yes.
Ohio, and they had protests. It was about the war, and they called in the National Guard. Well, we weren't protesting that. We were protesting the fact that we wanted to get credit on our meal cards if we didn't eat. We wanted to get credit for it. Either eat that breakfast or get the money back. I'll forget, 3 or 4 chocolate milks. I was a fat kid. So it was during this time, Kent State happened, Jackson State happened, where they called in the National Guard.
Right.
And so the Tuskegee Institute,
yes, As it was then known, yes.
Ours was about, tuition, meal cards, being able to visit the girls' dorms.
He had his priorities straight, didn't he, Sybil?
Things very important.
Yes, yes, sir.
Right.
and so, Tom, what
Protesting.
but you guys locked, what was it? You locked yourselves into the president's office?
President's office. It was a hotel. It wasn't called a hotel. It was a guest house where visitors would come, and it was trustee time. So all these trustees, the Rockefellers, the Mellons, all on the board, all on the trustee board of Tuskegee, and they came to Tuskegee and they stayed in Darby Hall, which was the guest house. And so the students at Tuskegee locked them in.
Okay.
So you guys had a real lock-in, huh?
It was a lock-in for real, Doc,
A real lock-in.
And then we ate all their food.
I think that's the way a lot of Tom's stories end. President Cristal. And then we ate food.
Oh, it's always connected to the food?
Yeah,
Hey,
connected
I'm
to
not
that.
mad at that.
And the girls' dorms. And then
And the
you see
girls-
how, we see how
I'm not mad
works.
at that either.
So President Cristal, tell me, in terms of Phi Beta Sigma, how did you find your way to that organization? Were you one of those young men that was mentored from 12 up, or was it when you entered college?
I was not. My story is a little similar to Tom's. My hometown is Grenada, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
Grenada, Mississippi, if you're not familiar, it's a small town. At that time, probably about 14,000 people. When I went off to Mississippi State, just being very honest with you, I knew nothing about fraternity.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody in my family was a member of a fraternity or sorority. Within my community, that was not something that we saw visibility to. And so when I went to Mississippi State University, I walked on that campus and I was actually recruited to become a member of the fraternity.
Mm.
My homeboy, Harwood, actually he's a professor now at University of Wisconsin, Madison. What'd you say, Tom?
Black students were there.
Yeah, black students were there. They were.
Yes.
And we got our first African-American student in 1965, which was about 2 years before James Meredith integrated the University of Mississippi.
Wow.
Our experience on our campus was a lot different than his.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually, he became a student. It was a very quiet experience. To be quite frank, the university kind of welcomed him on. And I could talk about my university for a while. I love my school.
They already had a Sigma chapter?
When I got there, yes, our chapter was founded in 1976.
Wow.
I went to Mississippi State in the fall of 1981.
Okay.
And I joined in the spring of 1982. And I tell you, Sybil, I would say pretty proudly, pretty excitingly, one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. Met my wife at school as well. She was pretty active in our sweetheart group.
Mm-hmm.
For the brothers who might be listening, we don't have sweetheart groups anymore. We outlawed those a long time ago. And also my son, he also joined the fraternity. He plays at the University of Arkansas.
Nice.
Both of us pledged our freshman year in the spring semester at an SEC school. But what I remember most, Sybil, about joining the fraternity is similar to what Tom was just talking about. Our chapter had what I call the balance. They were pretty studious.
Mm-hmm.
They had a great connection with the student body because in a fraternity, community service is very important, but social engagement on a campus is extremely important as well. And we also had a great working relationship with the university as well. And so we had what I call the trifecta. And I remember, Tom, similar to what you were talking about in respect to some level of frustration you had as a student. It was during my sophomore year. The university had, at this opportunity, like most campuses, you have to vote for the homecoming court. Well, this year, at that time, it was whoever won. It was not a runoff. Whoever had the most votes would win.
Right.
Well, this year, it was a young African-American female student who had got elected to the homecoming court as a sophomore. The next year, it was a determination that it was needed for us to do runoffs now. Yeah, Sybil. Yeah. The African-American students had the same opinion you have, right? And so, and it was the Greek community that I got pretty involved in that. And I would tell you to this day, that was voted down, did not happen. And I tell you, since then, we've had great representation of African-American female students, some going on to be homecoming queen, many to be on the homecoming court. We've had many to be student government president, many to be student senators. But I tell you, I just had such a great experience at the university, and I think joining the fraternity has really positioned me to have whatever level of success I've had in my professional life. I owe it a lot to Mississippi State, and I owe a significant amount to being a member of this fraternity.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm sorry, Chom.
Where's Mississippi State located?
It's in Starkville, Mississippi, not too far from Tuscaloosa, about 90 miles from Tuscaloosa, which is where the University of Alabama, I know you know that, is located. Yeah.
When you took your charge to be the international president of the Sigmas, there were some things that you absolutely wanted to start and wanted to continue as a part of this organization. What would you say are the most important things that you're doing, and especially in terms of what we are doing now and what we're facing now with coronavirus and the census and voting and what have you?
You know, the theme of our administration, Sybil, is a brotherhood of conscious men actively serving our communities. The first word of it being brotherhood is extremely intentional. If you connect in a fraternity, it's all about love for your brother, love for mankind. How do you uplift one another? When we think about all of the pain and all of the distress that the African-American man has to endure, you gotta believe inside of a fraternity, we gotta be there for one another. The brotherhood becomes extremely relevant and it becomes extremely important. And so we said before we do anything, before we go out and try to solve any problem in the community, we're gonna uplift one another first.
Right.
We're gonna see a brother and we're gonna say, hey man, I'm proud of you. Hey man, I love you. Hey, congratulations on that promotion. Hey, congratulations on that new business you just started. Hey, congratulations on serving as an excellent role model for your son, being a conscious husband, how you lift your wife up, how you celebrate your mother. We're gonna make sure that we become that moral compass for you. And so we wanna do that first. And so once we get ourselves right, once we get ourselves right, then we say conscious. Webster says that conscious means that you are aware. And it means that you're not waiting for someone else to define you.
Right.
You already know who you are.
Right.
You know you're a college-educated African-American man who is very well prepared to start that business or accelerate within your career. And so we're saying we're conscious husbands, we're conscious fathers, we're conscious professionals, and we're conscious servant leaders within our community. We know who we are. We're not waiting on the media to tell us who we are. We know who we are. Right. And so now that we're uplifting one another, a brotherhood, we know who we are of conscious men. Now we're prepared to go out and serve the community. Right. So we're a brotherhood of conscious men actively serving our community. And as I shared with you earlier, to get back to what my vision was for the fraternity, during my tenure as president, I said I wanted the centerpiece of our programmatic focus area. I wanted it to be on our Sigma Beta Club. I wanted to drive long-term sustainable change in young people's lives.
Right.
And I believed if we did that when that young man is 10 or 12 years old, as I shared with you earlier, and we stay with that young man as he graduates from high school, as we inspire him, motivate him, encourage him, provide financial support for him to go off to college. If he sees value in joining something blue and white that looks like Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity, then we have an opportunity to continue to mentor him. And then as he graduates, and we provide resources that provide meaningful employment for him.
Yes.
So he gets out of school, he has a career, he goes into that alumni chapter. We believe that trilogy of change, kid, college student, young alumni, that trilogy will not only make his life experience better, we believe it will make our community better, we believe it will make our nation better, and ultimately it'll make our world better. And it all started when we grabbed that 10 or 12-year-old kid and mentored him throughout his life. That's the big thing we wanted to do. And that's what we're doing for over 4,000 students across this country.
So President Cristal, let me ask you this. For moms and dads who are watching us here on What You Need to Know, how can they get more information and bring their children to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Go to our website, phibetasigma1914.org. Send us a message all across this country, whatever major city you're in, and in some cases, smaller cities where we have an alumni chapter. There's a real good chance we have a Beta Club, a Sigma Beta Club. We call them Beta Clubs for short. A Sigma Beta Club within that chapter, and we welcome the opportunity to mentor those parents, young sons or nephews or what have you. Absolutely. I'm very passionate about that. We got a lot of alliances. Susan Taylor, she has a national mentoring program that we just signed an MOU with her. I talked to you about the work we're doing with President Obama's foundation. We're working very hard, Sybil, to position our organization as a national organization that is recognized for providing sustainable, to me that's the key word, sustainable mentorship to boys of color throughout this country. And we're seeing some great evidence of that happening. Just celebrated, a lot of kids graduated. We're gonna have a virtual graduation in the middle of July where we will celebrate, I think, the team was telling me a little over 200 young men who will be graduating that we're going to have an opportunity to celebrate. And so we're doing some really good work, and it's some work that we're pretty proud of.
So let me ask you this, because this is a question that is always very interesting, or a fact, I should say. One of your members is Bill Clinton.
Absolutely, I was going to say that. Some people refer to him as the first African-American president. Barack is the second one. But yes, absolutely.
How did that come to be?
Yeah, so like most of our organizations, I'm sure Tom can talk about this as well. We have 2 ways for you to become members. You can obviously, or 3. You certainly can become a member as a collegiate. You can become a member as an alumnus. But you also have an opportunity to become a member through an honorary recommendation, and the fraternity ultimately found agreement on that. And so Brother Clinton became a member through our honorary membership group. The year escapes me. I want to say it was in like the early 90s or late 90s, but has certainly been a good representative of the organization. We had him come up, and we inducted him in New York, if my memory is correct, and we've had some level of engagement with him. But the thing that we're most proud of is that when you think about the history of our organization, Tom called it out a few seconds ago, particularly when you think about all the unrest that's going on in our country. What Phi Beta Sigma is most proud of, when you think about driving social change, Phi Beta Sigma was on the front line of that. You know the name A. Philip Randolph.
Yes.
You know the name John Lewis.
Yes.
You know the name of Hosea Williams. You know the name of Harry Belafonte. Tom called out, you know the name Al Sharpton. And so when you think about social change and really fighting, and I'm gonna say this with respect, fighting for the common man to accelerate towards something exponential, Phi Beta Sigma has always been there. And when you think about our heritage and our history, that's something we're very proud of. Our motto is culture for service, understanding again who we are, and then service for humanity. When you think about Mr. Floyd, as we talked about that 8 minutes and almost 9 minutes, we saw humanity being compromised. That police officer, yes, he was an officer, but something had to go through his mind to resonate. I have a knee on this man's neck. And as I have this knee on this man's neck, I know, I don't care what he might have thought Mr. Floyd did, whatever crime he might have imagined Mr. Floyd had done, somewhere humanity should have kicked in and said, what I'm doing right now to contain this gentleman, I know this is not right. And I think that's why this whole country is just disappointed. We saw that smirk look on his face. We saw that. And so the humanity of Mr. Floyd was taken away. And we saw that in ourselves. And so when I think about a brotherhood of conscious men and our fraternity motto of culture for service and service for humanity, that's in every Phi Beta Sigma's man. That's in all of our DNA. And that's something I'm extremely proud of as well.
You should be. I want to thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I want to give a shout out to a very proud member of your organization, Kennedy Barnes, and thank him for his help in connecting you with us, as well as Dr. Marion. And you guys are just doing great things. And it's been a wonderful conversation with you. I hope we can do this again. I really do. And I want to thank our resident Omega man here and note that for people who are looking to continue our conversations with members of the Divine Nine, we're taking tomorrow off, but we will be back on Monday, and we will be featuring the gentlemen of Omega Sci-Fi. And so we will be here
Can
on
I come
Monday.
back and do this since Tom can I show up tomorrow and just throw my frat sign up?
Yes, you may.
Picture and put it up for me?
Absolutely, absolutely. and whatever you need from us, we're here from What You Need to Know newsletter, and if we can spread the word about what you're doing, we welcome the opportunity to do so. And thank you for subscribing to the newsletter and being a part of this today. Appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Sybil, certainly thank you for the opportunity. Within our community, Sybil and Tom and your whole team has been a great resource for us to get not good knowledge, but great knowledge that was extremely beneficial to our community. And so anytime we have an opportunity to partner with you on advancing your cause, we certainly welcome the opportunity. So thank you very much.
And right back at you. Thank you, sir. For those of you who would like to be a part of the What You Need to Know newsletter family, please go to sybilwilkes.com, sign up, give us your name and your email address. We'll have that in your mailbox every Monday through Friday morning, first thing. And we will continue to inform. Tomorrow we'll have great information in there, including, I just want to give him a shout out and thank Chris Paul. He wrote a wonderful piece on West Unseld, and that will be in Friday's newsletter. So thank you so much, Tom. You enjoy life in paradise for the weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday. Thank you, President Cristal. We appreciate you. Tom, thanks so much for your participation, as well as coming back with us on Monday as we talk to Dr. Marion of the Omegas. And so we will continue that. I am rushing to get off because off of this line because I'm headed to the We Are One town hall that is starting at the top of the hour. And I will be the host of that. And we will have members of the Radio One family and the TV One family, including members of, we have the president of the NAACP, and you can go to, and Mark Marial, Mayor Mark as we know him, and you can go to newsone.com and also to Facebook. And we will be there in just a matter of minutes and talking about what we're going through right now. And so that is We Are One. It's more than a hashtag and a conversation about our current political and racial climate. So I'll see you all in a few minutes. Thank you once again, President Cristal. Thank you, Tom Joyner. And we will see you all Monday. Have a good one. Be careful and be safe out there.
Right.
There you go.